Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to this week's magazine review. So, I actually messed up last week, and instead of doing the February of 1989 review, I actually did Demolition, which was March of 1989. But as you can see, I actually do have February 1989, so I gotta backtrack. So, it's okay. I'll just have these two reviews out of order. It's fine. We'll go ahead and we'll knock out February, and then next week we will get them back in order. So this week, February 1989, WWF the Magazine with Jim Duggan on the front cover, and in this issue, Elizabeth finds horses and Andre avoids snakes. Outstanding. I really gotta find out what the hell Andre the Giant, what his issue is with the snakes, man. Hacksaw Jim Duggan is the tough guy's 2x4 legal. Or is the 2x4 legal? Probably. I mean, who is Jim Duggan without the 2x4, right? I mean, later on in the 90s, when he became the All-American Jim Duggan, right? And, dyed his hair blonde and started walking down the aisle with the American flag in hand. I don't know. It just became odd without the 2x4 in hand. That was, the gimmick, right? So, this was Jim Duggan. This was my Jim Duggan, right? So, that was always the Jim Duggan gimmick for me. And then all of a sudden, when this started happening, with the American flag in tow, it just became odd. But think AWA days, Rat Pack, Ted DiBiase, Jim Duggan, Matt Bourne, aka Matt Osborne. Those were the days with Jim Duggan and white knee pads and white boots, black trunks, right? And then when he came to WWF, he kept that, he came that same look. But 1990s Jim Duggan, this is what I'm familiar with. But anyways, Survivor Series, all the results plus exclusive photos. Brother Love, caught red-handed, attacks the photographer. Outstanding. Who is the WWF photographer, though? We shall see. The Fabulous Rougeaus discuss their careers, and Bad News Brown assaults Tony's dignity and Elizabeth's reputation. Outstanding. And what does this say? The nation's #1 selling wrestling magazine. Well, I would assume so. Alrighty. It's pretty interesting pictures. Cool. Do we want to read the contents? Nope, because we never do. Go for it. Nintendo Power. It's funny, man. Whenever I see like this giant, oversized Nintendo remote control, right? The only thing I could ever remember with that giant, oversized remote control, what was I want to say A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, where Freddy Krueger starts, gets like the power glove and like that oversized remote. That's like the only time I've ever seen anyone ever use that giant remote control. Just the regular handheld control with a couple buttons, right? That's the only remote I've ever seen anyone ever use. I've never seen anyone use that giant thing. I've definitely never ever seen anybody use the power glove, man. Outside of Freddy Krueger. Alrighty. Around the Ring and Fan Forum. But we don't necessarily read these, so we'll skip that. Damn, these damn things have been around this long. Kind of like, you buy 12 DVDs or you buy 12 VHSs, 12 CDs, etc. And you get them for like 1 penny or 99 cents, etc. A buck. And you're basically you're locked into the subscription. And later on, like for me with DVDs later on in life, you get like 12 CD or 12 DVDs for like $1 or whatever. And later on, I'm so used to going like Suncoast or Best Buy and buying these movies for like, $15, maybe $20 or something. And what was that darn place called? I don't remember, but you get movies from this darn place and they're selling those same exact DVDs for like $30, $35, $40. And you're locked into the subscription and you have to buy X amount of movies in order to fulfill your obligation, right? But like, who actually did that? Like, people are like, yeah, my name is Bob Barker, or my name is Pennywise, or some BS name to score themselves some free CDs or free movies or something. Some fake name so that they could, and that's basically all this stuff was. And if he decided to keep going, it worked. But like for me with the movies, right? When I finally decided to start collecting, DVDs and I wanted to keep going, what was that movie house called? For the life of me, I cannot remember. Like during Christmas time, they would have specials, X percentage off. And I would buy like a massive amount of movies. I'm like, man, I met my obligation. No, unless you're buying them at like actual store, regular prices, it doesn't matter. I can go out during Christmas time, get, movies for like 10% off, 50% off, and I could buy like 30 movies. Nope. I might as well bought 0 movies. It made no difference. And I think your requirement's like 10 movies, 15 movies, etc., right? So, but that's what that junk is. Take any 12 albums, 1 cent, cassettes or records, and any CDs for $1. Fill this junk out. It's basically a rip-off, though. Because you go to the store and CDs were like, like Best Buy, CDs were like $12. But you go to like these movie houses or CD houses and these same $12 CDs were like probably $30. So they get you in that first initial order. Yep, we see this right here. The same exact advertisements in every single magazine. Oh, Harley. Oh man, you know what? I just watched the Hodge Twins last night, and they were covering the release of Chris Lee. What the heck was his first name? But Chris Lee Knows Best or whatever. I forget his whole name, but just looking at this photo right here, that's exactly who that looks like. The father from Chris Lee Knows Best. Oh man. King Harley Race vows to regain the crown. Nice. What is that tattoo of? Looks like a bird in a nest or something. Is that a peacock? At first I thought it was like a nest, but now I think it's kind of like part of his feather or something. Ah, shoot. This is literally the first time I've ever seen Owen in photograph as the Blue Blazer. I have never, until like, what was it, Mattel Retros or Jack Pacific or something, I've never even heard Blue Blazer before. I mean, Owen Hart in the 90s, brother of Owen, brother Bret Hart, right? Of course, Owen Hart was all over the place. I grew up watching Owen Hart in the 90s. Not even a question, right? But as far as Blue Blazer, I would have never, that was lost on me. Up until a couple years ago, a few years ago, I never heard the name Blue Blazer before. But that is a crazy look. I like his outfit. It's unique. It's odd. I think it's a crazy gimmick, but I mean, as an action figure collector, I think, turning that into like LJN is crazy cool. But as a fan, I think that's like, if I were to watch it as a kid, I would have thought that was so corny. But, it's the corny outfits that make some of the coolest outfits, like Damien Demento in the 90s, right? I think that would have been such a corny gimmick and everything, but I think that would make an amazing LJN figure, right? So it's outfits like that really stand out, that really pop. I don't know, can you look at him and could you tell the difference? Probably not. I probably never in a million years would have been able to tell the difference. Blue Blazer hip tosses Bear Horowitz. With just a little more experience, the Blazer could become a true ring star. Come on. Owen was always a star. And what are these magazines going to be without their ice cream advertisements? One of these days, I'm going to buy an extra magazine just so I could tear one of those suckers out and frame them, because they are pretty darn cool advertisements. The Mountie. What the hell are they looking at, man? Uh-oh. My page is ripped. That's not good. Oh god, I am so easily entertained. I find the most random things to be fascinating. Oh god. But that was that look on their faces, though, priceless. Okay, don't really care about Haku. Never a fan favorite. Hercules was, he was so and so. Well, shoot, man. No wonder freaking Andre is terrified. You got this freaking anaconda coming at you. Where the hell is J-Lo at? Freaking J-Lo and Ice Cube, man. They need to get in this ring and help this guy out. First, speaking of Anaconda, first movie was good. Any parts that came after that. Part 2 was straight trash. And I don't know if part 3, I don't think that was a direct sequel. That may have just been like some kind of like, that may have been like a completely different movie. It was called Anacondas. And actually, I think Anacondas was part 2. And I think there was another movie called Anacondas. And I think that was a completely different movie. Was its own individual movie. And that's what's so confusing when they keep making the same darn type of movies. And they keep giving it the same titles. But CGI was terrible. And just, yeah, just... At least the first movie was back in like 97 was freaking awesome. But yeah, Jake's his snake was a python, but that sucker is like freaking 1,000 feet tall. I remember being a kid and watching Randy Savage tied to the ropes like so. And freaking Jake Roberts kept coming up to the ropes and basically letting Damien feed on Randy Savage. And I don't know why the hell it was so difficult for the referees and all of these officials, everybody to untie freaking Randy Savage from the ropes. But I mean, that was scary as shit when you were like, I don't know, how old was that one? Was that like 90, 91, 92? I'm guessing. I mean, I had to be super freaking young. I mean, youngish. Not baby young, but like early elementary school years. So I'm thinking around 92 or so. So around age 7, approximately. I'm at a time when you're still thinking that wrestling is real, or at the very least, when everyone's trying to tell you that wrestling is fake, and you in your heart, you know that it's not real, but like you're a fan of wrestling, even into the late 90s when you know wrestling's not real, but like you're a fan of the sport and everything, and you're just telling everybody to shut the hell up because you just want it to be real because you're a fan, and you're just trying to support and defend, what you're a fan of, right? But that was crazy. Even if you go back and like get on YouTube or something, you watch that today, because I'm sure there's clips of that probably still exist, right? That's pretty effed up to watch that. Or Andre John being passed out on the ground and freaking just Jake Roberts just like spreading that snake all. I'm like, oh hell no. I don't care if that thing is defanged and all the venom is gone, or you ain't putting no freaking snake on top of me. That's just crazy talk, man. So in like the 89 Royal Rumble, when like Jake Roberts comes in and he throws a snake in the middle of the ring, and I find it hilarious that like all these other wrestlers, they just kind of like back off. They don't even jump out of the ring or nothing. They just kind of back off, and then Andre just looks at the ring, just looks at the snake, and he's like, oh hell no, and he just tails it out of there. He's like having none of that. At least in like 93 Royal Rumble, right? When like the Giant Gonzalez first showed up. And all these wrestlers in the ring, and then they see this massive beast show up. They didn't sit there and jump over the ropes and eliminate themselves. No, man, they hauled ass out of there, but they just exited the ring, man, like intelligently. But you got this giant reptile in the middle of the ring, and You telling me they didn't just clear the ring themselves? They just stayed in there, just kind of backed up? Nah. I don't buy it. Something was fishy about that. But this 7'1" giant 500-pounder is the guy that hijacks it out of there? Nah. Uh-oh. I may have found me some t-shirts I might have to buy. Of course, what do I always say? It all depends on whether or not they are actively available for purchase, which 99 times out of 100, they're not. Powers of Pain shirts, same thing. You know, I might pay up for some vintage shirts like these. Oh, that's pretty awesome. I like this a lot. Mega Powers. What are you doing, Slick? Oh, some pretty cool pants. I think Mitch over at Hasbro Toys, I think he should have gone 1 year back. If you guys haven't gone through Hasbro Toys, I know I told myself I was gonna kind of put purchasing more of their figures on hiatus, but when you got new Jake Robert figures coming out, it's kind of hard to kind of put those on the back burner. You know, who's not a Jake Roberts fan, right? And he had 3 new variants. You know, 1990, 91, 92 era Jake Roberts. 3 new variants, 3 new custom schemes, so a paint scheme. So I'm like, I can't pass on this. I have to get Jake Roberts. So, but I look at that paint scheme. I'm like, damn, that's awesome. That's pretty nice design. But then you gotta think, when you look at Hasbro Toys, Grapplers, and Gimmicks, right? They are mimicking or based off of Hasbro's, and Hasbro's didn't start until 1990s, so you basically got to go off of the 1990 era. So maybe they couldn't do anything pre-1990, which kind of makes sense, but Bad News Brown, Unrepentant. Brown battles Tunney and besmirches Elizabeth. Don't besmirch anybody. Should it be banned? Hacksaw Jim Duggan's help comes in the form of the long solid plank of wood he carries. Let him carry the plank of wood. You know, if that were ever really a serious question, you would basically have to ban Honky Tonk Man's guitar, because it's basically a chunk of wood too, right? So how about canes that are coming to managers that carry canes? Those are a chunk of wood. Here's a man with the darn nightstick. What the hell are nightsticks made out of? It's not wood. It might be part wood, but when my mom was like a security guard in like the late 80s, early 90s, her and my grandpa, they used to work as night guards, security guards, and I used to hold one of those damn nightsticks in my hand. I don't know if they were like metal or part metal, part wood or something, but that crap hurt like hell. That was like super freaking rock solid. So, stupid question. Horrible question to say, should a 2x4 be banned when one of your bad guys are bringing a freaking nightstick to the ring? Or how about this? A deadly animal being brought to the ring on a consistent basis. Or another guy bringing a chain to, speaking of which, chain to the ring. So, terrible, terrible question. I mean, it's a fun question. It's a fun concept. It's definitely a conversation piece, but doesn't really make sense, right? Not in the grand scheme of things. Simply perfect. All right, I think we are winding down to the last page. Alright guys, once again I do apologize for skipping this magazine last week and having these out of order, but Jim Duggan on the cover, February 1989. Next week we'll get back on track and have them right back in order with the April of 1989. And let's make sure, actually, put this in the magazine holder for now, and make sure that we do have April. Yep, April 1989 is next. So I will get this stored away in a few seconds, but thanks for tuning in, guys, and I will talk to you in the comments. Goodbye, everybody.